We have Abdullah. First question: how do I reconcile between the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ forbade us on decorating graves and his grave currently? Secondly, what is the ruling on bowing, prostrating, swatting, kneeling, and nodding the head when greeting elders and ulama? It seems to be tradition in Nigeria, and my sheikh don't explain to me where they got it. Please, can you explain, and how should I go about it without creating problems? Firstly, it was the Prophet ﷺ who prohibited those who come after him from taking his grave as a Eid. And Eid, as we explained so many times before, refers to time and location. Time, we know, Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr, etc. But location is a place you visit frequently or every now and then. This is called Eid. So the Prophet prohibited the Muslims والسلام, from taking his grave as a Eid to be visited frequently. Why? So that people would not fall into shirk. How? By going to the grave and calling the Prophet ﷺ as we see them doing today. They go to the grave, they stand in front of the grave, and they make dua. Some of them make dua to the Prophet directly by saying, "O Prophet of Allah, have Allah Azza wa Jal grant me a son. Let Allah Azza wa Jal pay off my debts. My child is sick, I need him to be recovered, so ask Allah to do this for me." This is shirk, calling the Prophet ﷺ. In a book which has the title of The Etiquettes of Visiting the Grave of the Prophet ﷺ, the author, who happens to be from Mecca, from Saudi Arabia, with a PhD in Hadith, but he's a super Sufi. He says, when you come to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ, face the grave and say, "Assalamu alayka ya awwal, Assalamu alayka ya akhir, Assalamu alayka ya zahir, Assalamu alayka ya batin." And these are 4 of Allah's beautiful names. And this super Sufi is telling us to allocate these names to the Prophet ﷺ. What more kufr do we need to prove that those who frequently go to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ and indulge in such practices would probably get out of the fold of the Islam? And this is why the Prophet ﷺ was trying to protect their Iman and their Islam by preventing from doing that. Mother Aisha says, hadn't the Prophet ﷺ said that, and among what he has said, "May Allah curse the Jews and the Christians. They had taken the graves of their prophets as places of worship." She says, had he not said that, we would have elevated his grave from the ground. But his grave was like any other grave. It was this high from the ground, 1 foot. That's it. It remained like this all of Abu Bakr's time, Umar, Uthman, Ali, Muawiyah, until the time when I think it was Abdul Malik ibn Marwan who decided to expand the masjid. So he instructed them to expand it to the south, meaning in the direction of the Qibla, which meant that they had to include the grave of the Prophet ﷺ in the masjid. What do you mean, Sheikh? The grave wasn't in the masjid from the beginning? Of course not. The Prophet ﷺ was buried in his home, the house of Mother Aisha. And wasn't the house of Mother Aisha inside the masjid? Definitely not. How would the Prophet ﷺ sleep with his wives inside of the masjid, when we know that a person in a major ritual impurity cannot enter the masjid? All the houses of the Prophet ﷺ were outside of the masjid. So they were at the side of the Qibla and elsewhere. So when Abdul Malik ibn Marwan did what he had done, the Tabi'een stood firm against that. And he said, no, you cannot do this. This is an innovation. This is something that is not accepted in Islam. Being the king, being the ruler, such people don't listen to others. They don't adhere to what scholars say. And this is a universal fact. So he ignored what they said and did what he instructed them to do. And over the years, every Khalifa comes, tries to add something to the chamber as part of glorifying it, honoring it. And when the Ottomans came, they did the same, building this green dome, etc., which is all not part of Islam. So when you come, Ya Abdullah, and say how to reconcile, there's no need to reconcile. The Prophet instructed us not to do this. Those who came afterwards did it. Is it the fault of Quran? Of course not. The fault of Sunnah? Of course not. The fault of those who did this? Of course, yes. So this is something that took place against the will of the Prophet ﷺ, of the companions, and of the Tabi'een. As for your second question, what to do with the traditions in your country where they squat, kneel, some of them bow, some of them prostrate, some of them touch the feet. All of these are not practices of Islam and leads to extremism in greeting. And in some Muslim countries, unfortunately, where they call their leader to be Amirul Mu'mineen, they prostrate to him, actual prostration. And of course you will always find a Tom, Dick or Harry claiming to be a scholar, maybe has a PhD, you never know, and they would say, yeah, this is okay, this is not form of worship. Why did Allah instruct the angels to worship, to prostrate to Adam? Were they worshiping him? No, you idiot. They were not worshiping him, they were following Allah's orders. In our religion, Allah ordered us not to prostrate to anyone. So it is totally, being polite, not smart to say and compare this to that. And who knows, maybe if someone does not prostrate to his parents or to his scholars or to his ruler, you would have the audacity to say that he is the devil himself. He is Satan because he refrained from prostrating, like Satan refrained from prostrating to Adam. You never know. So, Akhi, these forms of greeting are un-Islamic. You have to avoid it. And this is done basically by having the vast majority of the Muslims educated, enlightened. We have to go around and tell them that this kind of practice, though it angers the elders and it angers some of the dignitaries who are used to being respected, they must be educated that it is haram. I'll just give you one example. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, whoever loves people to stand up for him while he's sitting, he should select his seat in hellfire. To have everybody stand up for you out of respect, as they do nowadays, while you're sitting down, or even if you're standing up, if you resent the fact that some of them did not stand up. This is a sign of arrogance that requires that you reserve your seat in hellfire. And this is very terrible thing to do. May Allah Azza wa Jal protect us all.